Hello everyone and welcome to Unicorn Light Tarot. Sincerely hope everybody is doing amazingly well today. Whether this is the first time you have clicked onto one of these readings or whether you are returning, welcome one and all. Today we have an exciting reading for you. How will your personal magic change the world? I'll pick a card today. How will your personal magic and what you're here to do, this personal, beautiful magic that you possess, how will it be integrated into the world and how will you change the world for the better? As always, we have 3 piles. Each of the piles has the same amount of oracle cards, but I put different ones on the top to help you differentiate between the energy of each pile. So pile 1 has the galactic energy. Pile 2 has a soul coaching energy, and Pile 3 has our magical unicorn energy. Take as much time as you need to get back to you. The more you are aligned with your own soul and your own heart, the more these readings resonate. If you need to go ahead and pause the video, that's totally fine. The timestamps are down below as always. And before we go forward, just a quick general disclaimer. These are general readings, so take what resonates, leave what doesn't. If one pile doesn't resonate, feel free to go ahead and choose another. And if another pile does not resonate, then maybe the messages are not here for you today. However, do check back with us in the future because I'm sure there will be messages for you. Let's get right into our beautiful reading today. So again, if you chose pile 1, we are reading for you today or finding out how will your personal magic change the world in this pick a card. We have oracle cards here. We will start with these and then we will move on to our beautiful goddess tarot deck for extra clarity. So let's get right into your messages. So your first message is Star Mother. How can you mother yourself? Beautiful. Here, and then 1000, you've got 18, or if you put them together, 9, deeper understanding. And then you have breakthrough. I soar into limitless love, light, and joy. Gorgeous. Let's see if you can see that. That's a beautiful one. And then third eye, visions, manifesting, and meditation. Beautiful. And then you have starseed energy. Self, memories, and identity. Beautiful. So the first thing that we're seeing for you, pile 1, is that you are here to bring back an essence of the divine feminine and in this world and integrate it into knowledge that we haven't necessarily previously seen before. There's a calm essence to you. You haven't always necessarily been calm. You know, there's ups and downs, but there is this underlying very sort of calm energy to you where there's an acceptance of all beings from where they come from. And in this calmness, you're able to really ascertain sort of people's identity, or should we say the identity that people have taken upon themselves to really meld into their existence. And you're able to see through identities and through labels. And this is a beautiful thing. And this is something with the knowledge of the divine feminine. You have deep wisdom within you, but also this wisdom of the divine feminine being front and center integrated into this lifetime, which is something that we, you know, as a society, obviously our society is sort of breaking apart and pulling apart in some ways, and all the chaos has come up to sort of the center so we can see what isn't working. And we're seeing that a lot of it isn't working. And while the divine feminine is revered in some ways, it used to be revered all the time, it's not really integrated into this lifetime, into our current society, modern society. And this is something that you hold dear. This is ancient wisdom that you have. And it's not just the wisdom of the divine feminine, it's the aspect of the divine feminine, how you integrate into the world, your personal energy. And this is a beautiful thing because as you integrate that energy into the world, you bring that personal wisdom to you and you bring that calmness to you. Now, in the past, some of you, and of course this is a general reading, so it may not apply to all of you, but some of you could have been quite hot-headed, which is perfectly reasonable. If you were misunderstood or you weren't seen, and especially the divine feminine aspect, especially the emotionality aspect of you, which runs deep, it actually hurt to the core. And you either sort of lashed out, maybe not at the time, you sort of, kind of sort of went within at the time, but you would lash out at some time about this. And maybe in, sort of strange ways or ways that it wasn't necessarily appropriate, you thought. But you did have this sort of lashing out of, when you weren't accepted and you weren't seen for who you were. And this was specifically within the realm of the divine feminine. Now, because you've worked really hard to integrate that knowledge of the divine feminine, now you have the calmness, now you have the understanding of others who are going through this, who are not seen for who they are and are kind of rising up in their own way, and they're angry, and which is completely, totally understandable. But you can be there for them in some ways. You can help them and hold the energy for them. Now, this is something that you can do one-on-one in this world, but this is something that you've done for the collective. As a starseed that you've come in, it's really something that you're here to do in this lifetime, is to really understand the psyche, to understand your psyche, and therefore to understand other people's psyche from sort of the all many different meldings of many different ways of seeing this, from the psychological, from the spiritual, from the past life, from the from the macro, from the micro, from all of this, and to integrate that knowledge. Now, this gives you great knowledge in different ways and being able to help people. It gives you great knowledge to lend to the universe, to integrate that energy, to hold space for people that you've never even met. It also gives you this knowledge to be able to help people one-on-one, either in a business form or what you do, if you're creative. It's this incredible sort of humanity and integrity that you have, that you can, again, hold space for people in many different ways. Now, in some ways, you did this without realizing this. And even when you held on to that anger in certain parts of your life of, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening again, or why am I not being seen? And even though that aspect of you could have been quite painful, you still were absolutely convinced that the only way forward was to really understand yourself and, accept every part of yourself. And this allowed you this beautiful breakthrough. And it also allowed you this deeper understanding, not just of yourself, but of human existence. It's almost like you're here to study human existence and how far we've come, and also how far wrong we've gone. And again, with both of those knowledges, you can hold space in a really beautiful way for people's identity, for people to come up and really assess their identity. And if needs be, to either integrate it or release it and move through to a much more deeper understanding. And this is all sort of trained through the eye of the Divine Mother, of, the Divine Feminine rising. It's a really incredible thing. And also you have galactic energy coming in too. So there is a firm knowledge of other existences that were, for a lot of you, not even speaking existences, like the way in which people communicated were through third eye, through different means. It wasn't through communicating through voice boxes, through our throat chakra. And you've come from these existences, and you hold that energy of that. And that, coupled with the divine feminine energy, comes in at such a rapid rate in this world that it's an incredible amount of music keeps coming up too for some of you. Music could be really important, or being musicians too. Coming in with that energy in this lifetime is absolutely incredible, to incorporate all of that magic. And again, holding space for a new way, a new paradigm for us to be integrated in that. So you have these memories of these identities that you had before, where we weren't even speaking. And for some of you, speaking didn't make sense at some times. You may have thought, I'm sort of going into myself here. And some of you may have, not necessarily worried about it, but wondered about, like, this idea of being completely introspective, where you go through phases where you don't even want to speak or communicate in this way. And for some of you, that could have been quite confusing. But And for some of you, it wasn't confusing because, that's the way you wanted to be, but you wondered if it was healthy. But that's the way that you were before. That's a normal way for you to be in silence, to communicate with yourself. It's in that sort of deeper moments that you have that connection with other people too, that you can express without speaking. So for you, in previous lifetimes and previous existences, it made sense to you. So that's the way that you would revert back into yourself and really, really figure out sort of what was going on. Sometimes, so talking things out for you at certain times in your life may not have made any sense to you, and may have felt quite unnatural in some ways. And that was perfectly natural for you. Now, as you worked forward and integrated more into this earth, you would, of course, know how to articulate yourself. And one of the things in this lifetime is you being able to hold space through articulation, through however it is that you articulate, through art, through business, through mediums, many different mediums, and sort of an amalgam of all of them, melding them in together. This is something that you can do. So you can definitely use your voice, but this is something for a lot of you that you felt as though you need to learn how to do in this lifetime, to be able to use your voice. And some of it was like your voice, again, was not taken. It wasn't about your voice being taken. It's just that it didn't occur to you necessarily while you were trying to come within and figure things out and just have those aha moments for yourself and do those deep level of healing that you needed to speak. You would have been great in certain ways. They have these communes, or they have these retreats where you go and you sit in meditation and you don't speak for a while. That's something at certain points in your life you would have been able to do quite easily. That would not have been a problem for you at all. As long as you could read, as long as you could be, integrated into nature, that's something that absolutely would have appealed to you. You would have been absolutely fine doing that. You wouldn't have had a problem acclimating to a situation like that. So let's see what we have here. Yeah, you've got strength with the star mother. You've got strength with that divine feminine energy coming in, that actuality of voice and identity, and the sort of identity that you want to keep, and the sort of identity that you is not sort of star bound. It's sort of what society has taught you. It's something that you're able to see within yourself and identify within yourself, and also able to see in other people. The programs that we've been conditioned to in this lifetime, you're able to see sort of the beauty and the soul shining from beyond that, from beyond the labels. You're able to see that in yourself, and you're able to identify that in other people. So you're able to really quickly identify. You'd be a great soul coach, even quickly identify where the essence of someone starts, and what society has told them to be ends, and bring it together and show that in a very specific way to that person. And with that identification, with that understanding of self, they're really able to sort of really come back to a more organic form of being in this world, without feeling as though they need to succumb to certain aspects of society that they were told that they need to, and have the confidence to be able to come back to themselves. It's a beautiful thing. So we also have the Four of Swords reversed here for deeper understanding. And then you've had temptation. So a lot of you, in many ways, let's pull this down here. A lot of you, in many ways, in this lifetime have not had an easy time of it. You've come into certain situations. You've come in with heavy karma for you to figure out. A lot of you have come in with heavy, specific emotional karma that's come in from your family bloodline. And this is something that a lot of you would have had to have moved through in this lifetime. This is something that you guys would have had to have maybe have done alone. Not all of you, but a good portion of you, insofar as that as you grew up, you may not have been able to have that kind of loving situation growing up. So this is something that you had to figure out for yourself. The healing programs that you've come up with, the way in which you've survived and then come out of survival mode into thriving, all of this was a supportive atmosphere that you had to create for yourself. And for some of you, it was quite painful. However, it created this an enormous amount of strength, because there wasn't this, you, for some of you it was walking on a tightrope. It wasn't this idea that, you know, you had this cradling issue, where you had this beautiful community sort of growing up for you, that you felt as though you could be supported by. You had to create these communities on earth as you grew up. So a lot of you have these incredible friendships here and there, that are maybe not blood related, but you're treated that way, as if you're blood related, and you treat them as if you're blood related, because you see these kindred spirits. And that's the thing, even though a lot of you had sort of a not so great start in life in many ways, you also incarnated with beautiful people that were able to help you and see you throughout your life. And they were sort of speckled into different aspects of your life. So when you were in a certain situation, you felt comforted, you felt seen in some ways. And that's something that you organized for yourself before you came down here. So it wouldn't be as hard as it desperately needed to be. Because, you know, you had this understanding of this family coming in that was going to be heavy. You had your heavy karma, you had a lot of soul contracts to go through, and you also knew that you were here to come back to a sense of self, a sense of equilibrium, something that you needed to figure out for yourself, something that wouldn't be handed to you, something that you needed to work through. And it was going to be tough, and at times it was going to feel like this sort of circular affair where you came you know, there was a 180 and you thought, you know, you were going to be further along than you were, but there was so many parts of peeling back the onion that you were further along, but there was more of it to go, more of it to go. And there were times where you thought, I'm not going to get through this, but you did. And it required a huge amount of strength. And the strength has been integrated into your soul, and the strength is something that you're now able to lend to others, again, on a very individual and a collective way. And the strength cannot be taken from you. It's provided this incredibly strong powerful sort of foundation in this lifetime. And therein lies your magic, your ability to be able to see through to people, see through, you know, their actual organic essence, and be able to hold space for that while they integrate that into their soul and let the rest of it sort of fall away, using these sort of this calmness, this real beauty from the divine feminine rising up, knowing that the emotionality and the beauty that we have, the more emotional that we are, and the more that we click into our emotions, the more practical we can be. The more aligned with our own intuition we are. I mean, we're told in, you know, we're told in the universe, we're told in society that, you know, the more emotional you are, the more erratic you are, or irrational you are, and specifically for, you know, the females. And that's actually the opposite. You know, we've been told that. So, you know, the divine feminine, the aspects of the divine feminine can be not taken so seriously, but actually the more in touch you are with your emotionality, the more rational you are, the more grounded you are, the more connected you are to your soul. And of course, this is something we intrinsically know. But as we move forward, trusting yourself, moving through all of the things that and some of it was for experience, moving through all of that deep darkness that you went through in order to become yourself, through celebrating and integrating the magic of your personal bloodline, but also having to heal that personal bloodline. You know, a lot of you would have put yourself into situations that were, you know, relatively dark comparatively to other people who have had different ways of being in the world. Some of you have had addiction problems or been around addiction problems, and this is something that you had to figure out yourself. Now, everything that you've come into in this lifetime, and all of the dark existences that you've gone into, and you've never been afraid to go deep, deep, deep and figure out what's going on. But you know, all of the stuff that you put yourself into, you were divinely protected when you put yourself into those situations, because you knew that you were here to be sort of a beacon of light for other people, sort of the, you know, the lighthouse for other people. So you knew that you were going to be able to come out on the other side of these dark existences. And again, with these beautiful souls that you incarnated with in this lifetime, you had very firm, beautiful connections with that were speckled in and around your life, that saw you at certain certain times. And some of these people would have been around when you had these dark moments or these dark situations, just showing you that what life could be. Again, that mirror of reflection of the beauty that life can be. So it always kept you grounded, knowing that, this too shall pass. Whatever I'm going through, this too shall pass. Now we don't want to lighten up what you went through. It doesn't mean that what you went through wasn't debilitating in some ways. That's part of the process for you to figure out like what it is that you wanted to keep, and what programming you wanted to be aware of, and again release, so you can integrate into the world differently, and again show people how to do that in many different ways, again one-on-one, or just by holding space for being who you are, and in that allowing people to become who they are. And that's what we're here to do in this lifetime. Let's see what we have with your third eye. Yeah, you've got that Ace of Staves there, that Ace of Wands. That's beautiful gorgeousness. And then with the Starseed, you've got the Queen of Wands. So your whole thing too is using the air energy with emotionality, and being able to really rock that deep emotionality that you have. And also when you communicate from that emotionality, from that deep rooted emotionality, but you're calm, and there's a gorgeousness to you. There's one thing, as you communicate yourself to an audience, and you're here to do that if you want to, knowing that you can. There was a time when you used to communicate before that your soul would still be weeping. You'd have to fight back tears. You'd have to do all of that, that's neither here nor there. Showing your vulnerability is absolutely gorgeous, but you've worked in such a way now that you've healed so much from within, that when you speak now, you can speak with great energy and great strength and great alliances with different versions of yourself. And that the emotionality is always there, but it doesn't come up in the throat anymore. It doesn't come up sort of in the eyes anymore. It comes up in your voice. It comes up in how you communicate. It's very powerful. And there's a lot of passion there moving forward. You're really able to reach people sort of in a new way. People stop what they're doing and they listen to you, and they make sense of what's going on. Even people who don't necessarily trust the world or trust society, which is perfectly reasonable, right? But they trust your experiences. They trust what you've been through, and they trust how you communicate and articulate, and they trust your energy. And that's, you've been through hell and back, and you've seen it, and you're not a liar. There's many things that you are in this lifetime, but you're not a liar. The way in which you show up is quite pure. And I don't necessarily like that word. It's been manipulated in such a way in society, that word pure, but for aesthetics here, and for an understanding of who you are, there's an essence of your soul that's incredibly pure. So you're not really able to lie or to send people off in the wrong direction. People have done that to you, and you know what it feels like. You wouldn't do that to other people. There's a humanitarian aspect to you that's integrated into your magic. You want to see the world sort of not just rise up, but you want to see the world kind of treating each other the way that we always should have been. And again, having this archetype of and that energy of the divine feminine coming back and illustrating all of these beautiful traits that we've not revered in the way that we used to hundreds, if not 1,000 years ago. Bringing that essence back, but doing that in a way that it's integrated into your very soul, and showing people, see, this is who I am. I am, the divine feminine incarnate here. This is who I am, and this is a beautiful way to be. And I'm still vulnerable, and I'm still strong, and I'm still badass. Now you're in a situation that when anybody messes with you, you absolutely call it. Call your own. You can stand up for yourself. You can stand up for others, and you do it in a way, again, that's very calm, that gets to the essence of it. There's a Scorpio energy for some of you too, insofar as that when you put people in their place, you really do it in a way that they can't do anything about it. You do it in a very sort of educated, sort of sparse way, but you get to the point, and you're really able to see people's beauty, but you're also able to see people's blind spots. You could use that against them if you want to. You're not here to do that, but you're definitely able to comment and have this commentary of how things are displayed and how people put certain energies forward, and some of it's manipulative, and you can call people on that too, you know. So you're here to really stand for the truth, but the real truth, the articulation of the real truth, not people's identity of truth in this lifetime. And that is a magical thing. And again, having that beautiful divine feminine front and center. So for a lot of you, Mary Magdalene could have been something, you know, the Gnostic Gospels could have been an energy, and Mother Mary, Queen of Angels, and even Jesus could have been. I always see him as coming in with those two ladies, and have sort of a very beautiful divine masculine, but with a sense of divine feminine energy too. So, and Lilith could have been another energy that's in and around you, even Hecate or Hecate, however you say her name, coming in. But Mary Magdalene could have been an icon for you too. There's just something about that energy that's intertwined with the energy of what you've been through, you know, not being revered, being told that you were one thing but not really that, but at the same time holding that energy of support, of beauty for what it is that they're here to do, for the wisdom that they hold, right? So you would find that iconography of Mary Magdalene very, very deeply resonating within you for some of you. And again, some of you could have really worked in that energy of seeking her out in the Gnostic Gospels, not necessarily in the Bible per se, but reading about her outside of the words of men. So very, very powerful stuff that you have here with this beautiful magic that you bring in. And again, this is incredible magic that you bring in, because there is magic with the divine feminine, and when it's fully integrated, understood, and articulated from that firm support, there's really nothing that we cannot do. And again, working with that third eye and coming back to that star energy, of having that energy of not even speaking before, and you know, you really can have a conversation with somebody. You really do understand that energy of connecting with somebody on a different level. You get that. You've had that. You're going to continue to have that. And again, all the life experiences you've had that you've integrated, and some of them have been quite dark. Some of them have been done to you. Some of them have just been in and around you. You've seen things that other people haven't seen. You've experienced things that other people haven't experienced. And you're here, you can see that energy in other people, what experiences they've been through and how it shaped them. And you're really able to differentiate, again, the society aspect of them and their true nature. And you're able to help them in some ways come back to who they are. This is not a small amount of magic. And this is through the articulation of, you know, your messages, seeing people, holding space for people, being able to see them in a way that, you know, that not everybody gets to see each other again, and integrating this divine feminine aspect of self, and putting that beautiful essence on a pedestal in a way that we haven't done in so long, and watching how people can see how successful that is, you know, being that beacon, being that lighthouse. Absolutely gorgeous. So these are the messages for your magic that we have for you, Pal 1. We are sending you so much love and energy and beauty for exactly who you are and where you are. Thank you for joining us today. Feel free to subscribe if you want to. We would definitely love to have you 2 readings a week. And of course, we have so many different resources. A new free course coming out, audio course coming out this week, and a new podcast. Everything is down below. Check it out if you feel called to. Until we meet again, take care. Keep rocking your magic, Pal 1. Bye-bye. Okay, beautiful Pal 2s. If you chose this deck, or Birdie deck, soul coaching deck here, then you are coming in to find out how will your personal magic change the world. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So we're going to start off with Oracle and then move in to Tarot a little bit later on. So let's get right into your reading. So you have Wisdom. All I truly need is within me. Beautiful. You have Transform 26 or 8 here. Transform your life. And then you have Soul Family. Call in your tribe. You don't have to do this alone, or don't have to do it alone. Beautiful. And then you have Tall Whites, Uncertainty, Distrust, and Guarded. And then you have the Galactic Federation, Collaboration, Meetings, and Community. Beautiful. So the first thing that I'm seeing for yous here, pile two, is that you're here to work with a lot of fire energy too, and really burning off what no longer works for you. So a lot of you could be sort of hot-headed in different ways. It doesn't mean to say that you lose the plot really quickly and then you're yelling down the house. I mean, some of you may have had that kind of essence to your personality, but it's not really that. But it's just you have a very short fuse, which is a good thing insofar as this, you're not able to really, how do we say it? There might be a little bit of French here. You're not able to put up with a lot of bullshit very quickly. You can really ascertain when people come at you with crap. And they tell you all sorts of things and they're trying to pull the wool over your eyes. I think that's the saying that we used to say at home. So you're not into that. You can see through people immediately, and you're here to sort of elevate beyond that. You're here to elevate beyond sort of just the primary focus of what we're here to do. So one of the worst things for you is that if you're sitting there and you're making small talk with people and you're talking about the weather, ooh, that's not going to work for you. You like to go deep, you like to talk, not necessarily with everybody, you don't necessarily have this relationship with everybody, only people who are sort of able to take that energy on. Some people might find you extremely intense because of this. If you're trying to have like a really deep conversation with somebody who's not really able or capable of that, or quite intimidated by that, that's fine, let him move on. But this is who you are. You're definitely here to root deeply and figure out what's going on. And you don't take necessarily the first thing. When people are talking to you, you listen to them. You're a very good listener, but you're taking in 2% of what they're telling you. You're listening to what's really going on. And you will be able to articulate the truth of somebody a lot quicker than they would be able to do that for themselves. But there's an energy of fire, of transformation, and of the phoenix energy. And this is energy that's really, really integrated into your soul in this lifetime. You may have had many phoenix moments where you've really you've gone into the ashes and you've risen out of it. And it probably isn't just a one-time affair, like we said. It's probably been many different existences of that. You've been many different people already in this lifetime. Now, this is something that you can hold true for other people and show people how to do this. This is an element of your magic. An element of your magic is really being able to reinvent yourself. Now, in some ways, you did this as a chameleon type thing. In your lifetime, you were able to do this from many different angles in order to fit in, although you were never really able to fit in. And this is something that you had to figure out. And it's something that you didn't really want to do because there was an essence of you that was dumbed down in order to fit in. But you do have this chameleon type aspect that you do sense what a group of people wants, and you're able to be that for them. Now, that of course means that you're dumbing down your authenticity. There's absolutely no way that you can be completely and totally authentic and true to yourself and also be what other people want you to be. So this is something that you had to figure out, and for some of you it was quite painful because you're really able to do the chameleon aspect, and you're really able to be what people want you to be. So this allowed you to sort of move in many directions and work with different kinds of people that normally people don't really necessarily get to do. So you've had many different experiences, you've been around many different types of people, and seen and experienced many different things. But you realized that this was quite painful for you. This is part of what you needed to figure out, that even though, you didn't actually feel like you were fitting in, so that wasn't working for you. And even though you've had many of these great experiences that of course that you could integrate and allow it to become part of who you are, it wasn't something that you really wanted to do because it was at the expense of your primary authenticity. So what you realized is that you weren't going to do this anymore. You weren't going to be this chameleon-like person, and that you weren't going to attempt to fit in anymore. It's this like tiny part of this anarchist part of you that absolutely exists, and then in the past it existed in a way that you might have even blown up. I can't do this anymore. I'm not, I'm not doing this anymore. You've gone to these extremes of, because you have these extremes within you. I'm not doing this anymore, and then sort of blowing up, and then having these phoenix coming out of these ashes moments, and then the other moments where you blended into society and you were able to see all sorts of different things. It's almost like you were undercover. And while you were sort of undercover, you were experiencing how people act and feel and treat each other. And none of it you were particularly impressed with. However, that information integrated into your soul, you realize you have a really clear idea of how humans work in this world, like the psychology of them. Many of you may have wanted to go into psychology, but you probably didn't want to because there was an element of you that knows how this would work and you would be very good at it. But what would have held you back from this is that you didn't want to be part of the system. And now that you've seen how it all plays out, you wanted to be part of a system that you wanted to create for yourself, right? And that's in that phoenix moment of when you come out into this transformation. And within that transformation, you're like, no, I want to create a new world on earth, and I'm going to find other people in and around me, and there are other people just like you to help me and support me, and we're going to do this together. So you're here to like really ascertain how the human development has worked, and for want of a better term, has gone wrong, has gone off in different directions. It's gone too far into the ego, where we've gone so far into the ego that people don't even realize they're working from the ego anymore, because it's as so much a norm that we feel as though narcissism and egotism is part of the national heritage now, that it's so deeply ingrained that nobody sees it as narcissism and ego anymore. They see it as rights, they see it as this, they see it as that, but you're able to go in and see all of this and understand it and articulate it. This is your magic. Your magic is being able to bring to the world different forms of being in this lifetime, and really be able to shake off the sort of the egotistical, the less humanitarian aspect of our lives, and be able to bring this back in the way that you stand, in the way that you integrate into the world. A lot of you could be, again, finding these new ways of being in the world. Maybe you're soul coaches that bring in an element of psychology because you're brilliant at that, but also bring in your own knowledge that you can really help and support people a hell of a lot quicker than these old systems would work, where something would take 10, 15, even 20 years. You can work with somebody in a month and move them on with the same timeline of healing, but in a month. This is something that you can do too. Now, you could do this one-on-one, again, with psychology, soul coach, that's something that you can do, or you can do it reaching many people by writing, by some kind of artwork, some kind of creativity. A lot of you are very good at multiple different things, and you're good at bringing in multiple sort of different facets of life and putting them together and putting them out there in a slightly weird way that makes sense. So sort of a layered fashion. Even if you're, music songwriters, you'll layer in different kinds of energy or different kinds of sounds that we haven't quite seen before, that makes your work quite haunting and brings people in. If you're a visual artist, you'll bring in all sorts of different things. Even when you're writing, you may not just write from one character's point of view. You might write from many different characters, because it's all about different points of view. Everything that you do has a layered version of events. It's almost like you don't trust when one person says there's only one way to do things, that your alarm system will go off and go, that's not the way it works. There are many different ways to do things, many different ways. So it's like, the way in which you would approach your work, it's like you're not going to approach it from one existence. The other thing that's really wonderful for you with this wisdom is that you have a really open mind, where you're willing to change your mind with more information and more research. And for you, there's always more research needed. Now, while this is a wonderful thing, that aspect of your personality could have held you back a little bit, because you didn't want to get out there until you knew everything, right? It's impossible to do that. So many of you may feel as though you're getting a late start on this, and some of you will be, if you're at that point where you're like, oh my goodness, I don't know if there's enough time to do this, or I'm just starting this now. That's just the way you are set up. There's an essence of divine timing for you, Paul, too. But we promise you, there is absolutely more than enough time for you to do this and move forward and do what you need to do. It's just that you're a little bit of a late bloomer for some of you. And this is not necessarily about age. A little bit of a late bloomer because you were constantly, training in this, doing that. And, and you were gathering information, you were gathering knowledge, and you were integrating it and letting it move through you. But there was an aspect of you that was always like, oh my goodness, I don't have enough information on this one thing to be, known for this one thing. So it may have taken you a lot of time for you to actually step up and go, no, I'm really good at this. What I know is more than enough. I'm going to shine. I'm going to do this. And you're the sort of person that not necessarily, some of you could have a lot of degrees and have gone in that way, but not all of you are going that sort of route. But you would have definitely been into the research, and you'll always be into the research. But the beautiful takeaway from this is that you have this open mind, and if you've concluded something and then more information comes in, you're willing to consider it. And also you're willing to consider that everybody creates their own reality, and then whatever they see, you see too, but it's still not resonating with you. That's not quite where you're at. You have this beautiful ability to just let people be who they are without them having to sort of change their existence just to fit in with you. Something that you know what that's like. You absolutely know what that's like. You've lived that. You've lived through it. You're done with it. You wouldn't wish that on your worst enemy necessarily. Maybe you would, but you wouldn't wish that on somebody that you like. So you know how that is. So this is an incredible way to be. There's a real strength in that. And the way in which your wisdom comes out in this lifetime, it comes out as magic, and people do listen. You're here to build new communities in this lifetime, but you're here to build them not on the backs of what we've done before. You're here to build them on true energy of, galactic energy too. I know there's been a lot of talk of Palladians and galactic energy, especially in the last 2 to 3 years, since we've been going through this sort of mass awakening one way or another. And some of the energies of that galactic energy have been wonderful, and some of it's gone off in several different directions. But you can actually really work with the Galactic Federation. You can absolutely work with galactic energy and get that real essence of truth that's humanitarian, that's not like sort of one-sided or goaded into one direction. You really have that energy of keeping it completely open and bringing the messages sort of to earth that can be interpreted in many different ways and yet still support people exactly where they are, right? So you have the Three of Staves right there, and you have the Ace of Swords. So you've got this Wands energy of, and there's this sort of a four longing with you. There's always this energy of moving on to something else. There's always this, and you get bored very quickly, and this is part of your magic too, because you don't settle. So for you, settling in some ways is kind of a big deal. You may have been accused of being sort of commitment phobes, but you're not really. When you do commit, you're insanely committed. You're extremely loyal. Nobody more loyal than you, absolutely, without it. And you'll do anything for anyone. It's just that you're sort of not necessarily careful, but you are careful in a way of bringing in who you give your energy to now in this way, and who you completely show yourself to. As you go down this sort of healing route, and of course healing is just about healing the trauma and seeing how beautiful you are, then you get comfortable with showing yourself in many different directions to anyone, which is something it's a big deal for you. You had to learn how to do that. Again, you had that chameleon aspect part of you, and for some of you, the way in which you were brought up, were the energy that you had in and around you. Some of you had dark energy in and around you, and some of you had somewhat dangerous energy in and around you. So that chameleon aspect was part of how you kept yourself safe, but at the same time worked in your magic, figured out how people work, their psychology, their energy, right? And you also figured out what you needed to do to survive. And then when you figured that out, you realized that that's not how you wanted to live. So you have this energy of transformation and constantly moving on to the new thing. But it's not that you haven't considered the old thing yet, but it's more research. You've got this active mind constantly. Sometimes your mind can loop around. For some of you, it can be difficult for sleeping, to sleep at certain periods of your life, not constantly. You do have this restful energy. but you're always engaged in information, you're always engaged in energy and moving forward and doing this. So when you've decided on something, it can be a little bit difficult for you to stay with it a little bit. But once you've integrated into that energy and once you've done that commitment, but you really have to commit to it, you're able to stay with it and go the long haul, as it were. But there's a real practical element of connection here that comes in, of commitment. You have to, if there's something on the long haul, like if you go to school or something that you've signed up for, you have to have that level of commitment beforehand. A lot of people just sort of go through life and get through things and do things, and they're not necessarily committed to it, but they get through it just as well, and pull in that information, whatever. Like for you, unless you're fully committed, you're not going to integrate into that immediate situation. So there has to be a level of commitment for you, and you look for that. When there's a million different ways that you can choose in your life, you listen to your intuition in that way, and you listen to what's right for you at that time. And then you try it on, and it's a whole process for you. And when you get to that point of like, all right, I'm ready to commit, that's when you do it. But it's not an overnight thing, it's a process for you. And this is part of your charm, this is part of your magic. This is something that you bring to the earth. This is something that you can integrate, where people have try things on and commit when it's right for them, instead of just randomly taking things on and taking them on as truth. Without really feeling into that, without really feeling it's this truth, connected to narcissism, connected to the ego, connected to my fear, or is this real truth? This is something that you're here to do, to really differentiate between like individual truth and universal truth, right? This is something that you can see through. This is something that you can hold truth for others. And again, to be in and around that wisdom, to be in and around that kind of magic. That's what we need. This is wonderful. So with your soul family, you have the Knight of Swords here, and you have strength. Now, strength came up again. Must have been pile 1 because we're on pile 2. Let's see what we have. So strength is needed in this world. And again, doing what it is that you want to do. Now, it's what you have, that part of your magic and part of your charm, is that you have this interesting way of working with energy, with money, with energy. So this idea that, you can't be successful and be spiritual is absolutely rubbish. The more that, there's abundance out there for everybody. More abundance you have, the more you can give it to others, like, right? So you're here to really move people through that too. Your magic is showing how successful you can be and what you can do with that money, what you can do with that resources, and showing strength in there. And also articulating that and building communities from these resources. We live in a capitalist society. Yeah, capitalism to a certain degree is sort of it's not working out. It's kind of crumbling. But to have these resources, you will be able to build new communities. You're here on earth to be able to do that. Bring in that strength, bring in that wisdom, work with people who also have resources to be able to do this too. There's an essence of you that's divinely guided, definitely galactic, but also bringing in this new humanitarian aspect to life, but building up new communities. And let's be specific about this magic of new communities. These new communities will not be based on these systems of government that we had before. They do not work. They're new communities that are going to be built up from scratch. The way in which we look at addiction, the way in which we look at mental health, the way in which we looked at the medical pharmaceutical companies that are sort of just running everything, without looking to the root of the problem of society and supporting people in that way. But having that balance between holistic and science, because we need both, but both sides need to learn something from each other and come into the center, this kind of centering, instead of just, one side, saying that the other side doesn't have any right, and having that on either side. This is all about sort of a real balance of wisdom for you, bringing in this articulation and a lot of strength and beauty coming in, but be able to do this in a very practical way. So for some of you, you might be into, or you might be here to work within the business and the finance aspect of non-for-profit communities and things like that, but doing it in a way that really makes sense. I know a lot of non-for-profits are wonderful, but it's, but having it in a way that these systems are set up where they become very powerful and they really work for the communities. In a real way. It's not just on paper. You're here to do tangible work. You're here to use that fire to transform and to help people do that on an individual basis, certainly, but do that as for the collective. So you're going to be working on many different sort of layers here. But you have the strength and wisdom to be able to do that. And again, you have this clear articulation of the actual truth beyond fear, beyond narcissism, beyond ego. And of course, all of this has been integrated so firmly into our modern day society that it's difficult to differentiate between anything, between, spiritual communities, different communities, even where fear, ego, and all of this is integrated to the point where, people have the truth, but it's really working from a sense of fear. You can go into that energy and you can feel it and you can see where people are coming from, right? And this is something that you can clear away over time. This is your energy to be able to do that, but not do it in a way that, you're wrong, you're right. This is not about wrong or right. This is a way of just bringing in different truths and letting people choose for themselves, of course. But this is about balance. You bring in a great magic of balance here. And we've seen people going from one side to the other in this lifetime. And particularly in the last couple of years, last 4 or 5 years. And that's because we've been so out of whack that the way in which we've balanced in society, that because we've gone one way, the only way to balance is to go completely the other way, right? But really at the end of that, it's still the same. It's two sides of the same, different sides of the same coin. Coming back into an essence where we can learn from each other. That's the middle part. That's what you're here to do. The fact that we've gone one side and then the other is wonderful because that's the first level of balance. But we can't stay there because it's the same energy. It's the same energy on both sides. It's just a different ideology. So you'll be bringing people into center and bringing in that transformational energy too, because as people come into the center of it, they're neither one or the other. They're an amalgam of both and many different things in themselves too. So there'll be this level of sort of fiery sort of transformation coming up from the ashes where neither side holds their psyche anymore. There's a level of communication that's different. There's a level of strength and grounding that's different in this lifetime. And again, using those resources to really build up in a very tangible way these new ways of being and seeing each other and treating each other very, very differently instead of, oh, I'm right, you're wrong. So this is something that you're researching. This is something that you're constantly working on. You also see human development, which I believe is very magical. You also see human development as constantly moving and shifting and changing, and you see that within yourself. So you also constantly realize that you're not the same person as you were the day before and the day before and this, that, and the other. And this level of consciousness is integrated into your soul, and you carry this, so you're ever changing, which is something that's beautiful because we're seeing a lot of people in the collective that are in the last couple of years due to fear because of everything that we've been through. It's very traumatic. We may be in different boats, but we're all in the same storm, to really click their heels and goes, no, this is the only way. You're with me or you're against me. This is the only way. And of course, that's fear talking. It's totally understandable. We've been traumatized, on a global level. So, you're here to see through that and see past that. That's the thing. As you keep moving through all of this energy, you can really identify how this all works and how people want to stay in one existence because it feels safer. And then allow people, this is who I am. There's only one way to do it. You either believe in me or believe in what I believe in because I'm right. And that's out of fear, of course. You can really identify that again and integrate that into society, but move through it. And this is something that you're aware of and something that you really hold true. And there's an aspect of you that maybe did that at certain parts of your life, but you moved through it in this really glorious and gracious way. So you're going to build societies, you're going to build communities and have soul family around you that don't do that, that are willing to sort of be wrong and learn. And again, that expansiveness that you have where you're willing to be wrong, or you thought this was going to go in a certain way and you believe this and you're like, actually, I've decided that I don't. I've changed my stance on this. and bringing in this community of speaking and figuring things out and honoring where everybody is without people needing to be right or wrong. This is something that can absolutely happen, and this is an essence that you hold. This is your magic, and also not being afraid of those transformations where you come into and realizing that everybody has a different way of seeing things. Holding reverence for each individual truth, but also honoring your own truth. This is a magic that you can hold for yourself and give people permission to be able to be like that, but also be more like you in a sense, but also integrate this knowledge and this wisdom in a very specific way that you're going to be working in communities where we're building up communities in completely different ways that we did before, with completely different knowledge and a different identity, which is much more in alignment with humanitarian instead of us versus them. So really getting to the root of things, and again having the resources to be able to do that. So for some of you, your magic could be actually finding the resources to be able to do that, and working with abundance energy and making that work and helping individuals be able to do that, but also holding this incredible space for being many different aspects in this lifetime. You can be successful, you can be rich, you can be spiritual, you can be humble, you can, all of these things that we really should be able to do. But again, there's still this essence of you can't be successful and charge for what you do if you're spiritual or this, that, and the other. But also be very balanced where you work with people who don't necessarily have the money either. There's a real balance with you. You don't go off in one direction and go down the money train, but at the same time you understand that it's a resource. So this is bringing in different aspects of sort of being human, for want of a better term, the 3D aspects of being human, and sort of elevating them to 5D, but still making them work in the world in a way that makes everyone feel comfortable, that gives everyone a space at the table to be able to eat and talk and feel relaxed, and be seen for who they are. That's the magic that you bring to this lifetime, and this articulation that you have, and this curious nature of always, what's the next thing? What are we doing? But again, there is that commitment. Once you do that, for any of you who have this personality type, in PAL 2, and you're wondering, I'm involved in this right now, but it's not taking off the way that I want to. Go back and commit to it properly. There's an essence with your energy that it doesn't really work 100% until your energy is 100% behind it in the same way. You work a little bit differently than other people. So if you absolutely commit to it and say it out loud, however each and every one of you individually connects to something, once you really bring it into your existence and your mind, your beautiful practical mind and your ego has integrated what you're doing as a commitment, you will see whatever it is that you're doing take off. If you don't have that level of commitment before, it's just your mind is telling you, you're integrating the information as if you're taking it on as information. You're not committing. So if you want to see real change in the world, there needs to be a commitment on your part. And again, that's just the way you do it for now. Now, there might be a way to do it outside of that way, once you integrate new knowledge and stuff. But for you, there is a way that you commit. Now, again, if you declare it, if you speak to your guides, whatever it is that you do, but there has to be a tangible level of commitment, and then everything falls into place. So for those of you who are like, I've started these businesses, I've done this, and and I thought I was committed, or it's not really working out or taking off the way that I want, go back and recommit. Go back and recommit, and then all part of your essence, your ego, your practical mind, your divine feminine, your divine masculine comes together in this rooted commitment, and then you will take off. It's about the manner in which you come in and around this energy. So that's a little practical tip. What you do with that is completely up to you. But a lot of beautiful magic bringing this essence, and of course it's very needed in this world. And of course you knew that you came down to be able to do this in this lifetime. A lot of strength and a lot of beauty. You've got a lot of visionary aspects too. You're able to see things from the macro point of view. And again, you are not afraid of transforming your life over and over again. And you probably have a lot more transformations going through the divine masculine, the divine feminine, as you shed some of this old stuff. You'll probably have more of those phoenix moments coming out. So you're not afraid to hold space for others who are going through it too, because some people are genuinely terrified of these, these phoenix coming out of the moment, coming out of the fire aspect of self, but they'll do it, but they find it quite painful. You, even as a coach or as a friend, you would be able to hold space for people going through that. That's also part of your magic. You can lend that strength to them. So this is what we have for you, pile 2. Thank you so much for being here. We're sending you so much love and light and beauty for exactly who you are and where you are in the world. If you feel like subscribing, we would love to have you. And of course, you can hit that bell icon and give us a little like. And do not forget that we have so many different resources for you down below. Click on the links below if you feel called to. I've got a new course. We've got a new course coming out, an audio course on writing this week. The Unicorn School of Light has a bunch of stuff for free. The website has a bunch of stuff, so check it all out. It's all down below. Again, only if you feel called to. Take care, pile 2. Until we meet again. Bye-bye. Hello, beautiful pile 3s. This is your reading, last but not least. Again, we are finding out how will your personal magic change the world in this pick a card reading. We're starting off with our oracle cards, and of course you chose this deck because, well, for many reasons, but we do have the unicorn right on the top, the unicorn magic here. So we'll start off with oracle cards, and for extra clarity and more information, we will move on to the goddess tarot. So let's get right into your reading. So you've got energy, healing energy and immense vitality flow through me easily and effortlessly. Beautiful. That's a great card to start off with, no? And then you have the Visca Pisces here, divine feminine birthing fertility. Beautiful. There was a divine feminine aspect with pile 1 too, so we'll see how that works out for you. You've got flower of life, inspiration or dreams. That's gorgeous too. And then you have the crumbling. What are you clinging on to? And you've got fireworks. I love that. Put yourself out there. Pile 3, you've got this beautiful energy in and around you. You've definitely got elemental and fairy energy, fae energy around you. Beautiful. You've come in with this gorgeousness, this absolutely gorgeousness. Now, each and every one of you, because this is a general reading, will have a different kind of personality, of course, but there's the central part of you, and this is your magic. It's absolutely beautiful. It's this emotionality, this divine feminine. It's this softness. You're also badass too, don't get us wrong. This softness, this gloriousness, this sort of real innocence, which is really incredible, because even though you have this incredible innocence, it's almost like, sort of like this Betty White kind of energy to her, like Rose on the Golden Girls kind of energy to you. You also have this badass energy to you also, and you're also incredibly old souls. So you've seen and heard it all. There's nothing that you haven't seen in other lifetimes. And yet you still have this sort of this soft underbelly of absolute gorgeousness. This real sort of inner child energy, which is really funny, because for a lot of you, your inner child was not integrated as you were growing up, because a lot of you sort of, wanted to protect your inner child, so kept the inner child safe. But yet still you have this sort of childlike energy to you. Some of you may have hidden that a little bit because you needed to in order to survive, because some of you have not had some great existences growing up. And that's part of your makeup because of the old soul element and karmic aspect. But still holding space for each and every one of you there. But you have this incredible energy, but where you come from is this incredible innocence and this incredible beauty. And even though a lot of you have seen a lot of ugliness in this lifetime, and again, to clarify again, in many other lifetimes, there's still this beautiful innocence to you, and this understanding that everything can be okay. And you have this glorious positivity that comes out, that's in and around people. You can see the positive in every situation. Now, in certain aspects and certain times in your life, this could have been quite difficult for you. And this is something that you needed to really work on and maintain, but it's part of your magic. Now, part of your magic could have actually pissed off people. Sometimes, when they come to you for advice, you're definitely that person in the group where people come for advice. But when, they're coming, this other person is coming in for advice and they're bitching about somebody else or this, that, and the other, you'll always come up with that positive, well, maybe they did it because of that. And, I totally understand where you're coming from. You'll see it from every point of view. And that person that's coming to you could have been quite pissed off because they just wanted you to be there for them and maybe cuss down the other person, this, that. But you don't do that. You'll come in from different points of view. You'll always be able to see the macro version of things, and also have allowances for this real understanding that people are only coming from exactly where they've allowed themselves to be. They have a certain amount of experience. They have a certain amount of past lives. They have a certain amount of integrity that they've either worked on in this lifetime or not. So the way in which they treat you, the way in which people are in and around you, that they're working from a certain amount of limitations. Some people are working from a certain amount of expansiveness, but this is something that you're able to identify in each and every person and make allowances for. Now, this is something in your life that you may have done several times that caused you some pain or even some harm. So this is something that you had to figure out where, protection for you. How much protection do you need in and around people? You had one of those neon lights because you're a caretaker where people came in and they may have taken advantage, but yet you gave them plenty of chances because, of course, for you saw the beauty within them, right? And you saw the potential within them, and that's wonderful. And then something clicked with you, pal 3, which is absolutely wonderful, where you realize that just because you see the potential in someone doesn't mean that they see the potential in someone. Giving your energy to somebody who sees the potential in themselves and ergo are ready to work on that potential. Those are two different things than just seeing the potential in someone else. You can accept someone for who they are and hold space for them, but if they do not see their own potential and they're not willing to work towards that potential, then they can pull everybody down with them. So this is something that you had to work from the inside out. It was kind of a painful thing for you to learn, and unfortunately you needed to learn this several different times. Whom you gave your energy to. However, you did not lose that innocence, even though sometimes you did. At some time, at certain points, you may have gotten a little bit jaded, which is totally understandable. That energy and that beautiful energy that you had always took you through it, and after a certain amount of time, you were able to move through the dark energy of non-trust anymore, and able to blow through it. Sort of like the phoenix from the ashes, like we said in Pal 2, but very different energy. And then you were able to come back to this sort of childlike positivity, which is absolutely gorgeous. Now, this allows for, and we don't want to pretend and suggest at any point in this reading that the gorgeousness that you have just came from somewhere, and that you didn't have to work really hard to protect it. You didn't have to work really hard to cultivate it, because you did. And you're still working on this, but it's gotten a lot better. This trust you have with the universe, knowing that you're not just working with the universe, you are the universe. And to have this essence of releasing into what it is that you want and trusting the universe. Trust has not been a big thing for you with the universe, because there's been so many things that have happened to you. It was very difficult to for you to ascertain how trust worked. But again, with this beautiful attitude that you have, you're able to move through it. And your thing that you're here to do is to really bring that trust to fruition and be able to integrate it completely and totally within your soul, and then help others do the same thing. So you will have this life story. And again, each and every one of you will be slightly different, because of course each and every one of you has a very different life story. I mean, there'll be crossovers, but there'll be different life stories. But you'll be on a stage and you'll be talking to people, I went through this, I went through that, and show people everything that you went through. And some of it was really dark, and be able to say, but I learned how to trust, I learned how to do, and you'll be able to show the physical existence of it. And then because I trusted, this happened, X happened, Z happened, this happened, and now I have this, and now I do this, and now I can do this, and now I can do this for you. You'll be able to show people in tangible ways, these golden ways, how you are just like them, how you learn how to trust, and how there is an actual payoff. And we mean a real payoff, an external payoff in the world. Whether it's money, whatever it is, success, right? You'll be able to show people how to do that. That is your magic. Coming in with the Five of Swords energy and coming in with the Six of Pentacles reversed, this energy of fighting within, trying to figure things out and doing things on your own. Again, trusting oneself, but to a certain degree, knowing that that trust needed to go a little bit further. You needed to learn how to trust the universe. And that trust was not easy. You had to come back to a sense of self. You had to honor different aspects of yourself, integrate yourself at a newer, more profound level, and really integrate this divine feminine and know that everything that, and really honor every aspect of yourself. And this was an energy that you had to figure out how to do. Let's pull these cards down. You had to figure out how to do this energy and how to preserve your energy too, because a lot of you were kind of drained at certain points when you were working with this energy, because you're empaths. You pick up all this energy, in and around you. And this energy that you picked up was exhausting because you're constantly looking and scanning the room to see how you needed to protect yourself. That's an essence of the empath too, right? They're always looking for ways to protect themselves, and the way in which they do it, they assess a room, they assess, the energy within a room and what they need and how they need to work accordingly. And because you were so open to all of these energies and you let people in, because you saw so many different beautiful souls, and you saw the potential in each and every one of these people and all of this beautiful thing, aspects of what they can do with their lives. But again, some of these people were limited. So, you really had to figure out that age-old kind of beautiful way of working with yourself, where the trust that you had in yourself was enough to a certain degree, but it wasn't bringing you into the way of living that you wanted to. You wanted to level up, and you weren't able to level up in the way that you wanted to. So you had to go a little bit further, go a little bit deeper, and say, all right, I'm working on trusting myself now. I can trust myself to show my innocence and keep my innocence. I can trust myself to birth myself into a new way of being. I trust myself. This is huge, but now I need to work with the trust of the universe. So you hold this card came up in pile 2. So you had to go in and really work with the energies of the unknown. And some of this could be quite not detrimental, but this could have been quite difficult for you in some ways. It could have been quite scary because you sense the underbelly, you sense the unknown, and there's an aspect of you sense the darker part of it, as well as it's not really a lighter part of the unknown, of the darkness. Now, you weren't necessarily afraid of it, but you knew what was there. You could sense it, and you didn't really seek it out, but that energy sought you out because there was so much light in and around you. So it could have been quite difficult for you at times for you to go into that essence of the unknown, because it was so deep and it was so dark and you had so much light. But at the same time, it did feel like home for a lot of you. So this was quite a journey for you. For a lot of you, I don't know if you've done this, but checking, I think it's recently, the last couple of weeks at least, we did messages from Persephone. This would be, if you haven't checked it out already, this would be a wonderful one for you, because the underside of life, the underbelly, the underground, the underworld even, this is something that you know, but you also have been quite nervous about. So the way in which you've explored it is very much on your own terms. But for you, a lot of your magic comes from knowing the unknown and putting yourself in a position to integrate that knowledge. And of course, you have this great understanding of the patterns of life. There are a lot of different patterns. There's a way energy moves and energy works, and you understand that, and you can absolutely work with that energy in the underworld, in the darkness. And there's a lot of conclusions, there's a lot of beauty that's found in that. So the way in which you're articulating yourself, it's kind of from the underworld, but using this bright and this light that you have to integrate that knowledge into the underworld and bring up this new energy and this new way of seeing things. So it's not as frightening for other people to go in and check out. And to learn from. And with fireworks, you've got 10 of Pentacles. Yeah, it's almost like you're able to take people into a journey into the unknown and take them in safely, and teach them that that's where a good portion of their power lies, right? And really allow for the process for unraveling, and holding space for people and supporting people in the unraveling, because sometimes it's necessary to unravel so we can come back together and choose what it is that we want to bring back into our existence. But a lot of this will be found in the darkness. So a lot of your light is dedicated to the darkness in this lifetime. And again, because these are general readings, this can go in many different directions. It'll mean very different things for each and every one of you. For some of you, it's the artist in you that goes into that darkness and pulls those nuggets of wisdom out of the darkness and integrates it into your work, and you do it in such a way that you make it palatable for other people to take in small bursts, so they're not afraid of their own darkness, right? Whatever it is that you do, you sort of you don't force feed people this information, but you feed people this information in a way that they can really articulate, in a way that they can really understand, in a way that they're not overwhelmed, so they don't automatically shut down or shut out this information. You're all about the darkness in a way, but yeah, you've moved at it at your own pace, because and again, it's not really fear. You don't necessarily fear the darkness. I think for some of you, you fear getting sucked into the darkness and you'll never come out of it, because there's a part of you that works so well in the darkness. But again, this is your magic. It's almost like you're a journey person, a journeyman, a journey woman, a journey person, taking people through through the river Styx and showing them what they need to know. And you do this with graciousness, and you do this with expansiveness, and you do this with glory and humor, and with the inner child intact. You do this in a way that people can really articulate themselves and again see themselves in the darkness, but don't feel as though they're going to get swallowed up by it, which is something that you really understand, because you also felt this way too. You have this incredible energy, and this is how you integrate it, and it's really able to be a sort of a catalyst in this world and help people bring in and heal from the darkness and not be afraid of it, and also find those nuggets of wisdom in the darkness. Now, there's many different ways that you can do this, even shining light on biblical stuff, things that are wonderful but somewhat outmoded in this lifetime. The way in which you can articulate yourself while honoring religion, but at the same time showing the downfalls of where we've taken it, into the darkness, bringing it back out into the light. There's lots of things that you can do. For some of you, this is specific, but like even rewriting aspects of the Bible, even rewriting some of these stories that we can articulate, taking these darker stories that, even fables or fairy tales or allegories, you would be great at this, and rewiring your brain around the narrative of it and making it more palatable and powerful. That's something that you could absolutely do. Taking your own personal stories and teaching people how to acclimate through them and use them as a catalyst for change for themselves and for others. But you're all about holding space for people, so the details of people's lives don't weigh them down, that they're not defined by that they're not frightened by those details, that they can move through them and again have that innocence and beauty and acclimate into a new way of being, but hold those experiences in a reverent way, because we wouldn't be ourselves without those experiences. The way in which you hold the balance of light and dark, it's quite extreme, but it's also beautiful. It's magical in this lifetime. And you'll be able to, in many different ways, you'll be able to integrate that into the fabric of our society and build a new society. It'll be really exciting for what you do. Again, some of you can do this through art, but not necessarily. There's many ways that you can do this, working one-on-one, working with groups, but this is something fundamentally that you started with yourself. You learned how to do this yourself. There are a lot of ups and downs with this process, a lot of things that worked and didn't work, a lot of ways that you were fighting against yourself, and a lot of ways that you started something and it fell flat on its face, but not worried about things crumbling below you, knowing that, whatever you put your energy into, if that facet of it didn't work out, there's something else that's coming in. Again, training your mind, training all aspects of yourself to see yourself not just as working with the universe, but being the universe, trusting yourself, trusting the universe. If that didn't work out, something else is coming in, but knowing that you're always going to be looked after, you're always going to be supported in this way, and leaning into that release. This is a huge thing for you in this lifetime. This is what you're here to do. And in many different capacities, you're here to do this for other people. You're here to be an example. But again, you're here to help people how to do this on a one-to-one basis or on a group basis. But you're here to help people do that. And it's not a small thing, and it's going to be very successful. People who work with you will be very successful. They'll be able to see how you implement this. And for some of you, it'll be a very specific way that you implement this. You'll be able to make a course from it, or, it's pretty specific. You've tried this, it didn't work. It's almost, you have a very analytical mind of how to sort of break things down and put it together in a tangible way that will work for each and every person, regardless of their background, of what they've been through. But again, bringing in that innocence and that beauty and that sense of personal truth, that positivity, not getting too bogged down. Again, if you're going into that darkness and working within that realm, keeping that light, keeping that sense of humor, keeping that elemental energy, knowing that it's all part of the birthing system, not getting sucked into it necessarily. Always searching for new ways to be, and trying things on. And again, that you've had a lot of ups and a lot of downs, and when things crumbled below you, you just said, all right, let's move on to the next thing. Teaching people resilience, that's another thing. And a lot of people do have resilience because they've had to be resilient, but really learning how to use resilience in a way that integrates into the earth, or integrates into how we work, where it's working on a new level. It's working on a new level of success for people. It's not working in the survival aspect, it's working in the thriving aspect. A lot of people know how to be resilient because we're in surviving aspect, and we have to. It's a matter of staying alive. A lot of us can do that, but you will bring it up to the next level where you're taking that up to thriving. And again, this is a way that you can work with each and every person by being able to sense who they are, and allow for each and every person's individuality, but still whatever it is that you're working on will apply to them, will include them, and they'll feel that. This is a very healing energy that you have, and it's a very vital energy that you have. You're not afraid of your mistakes. You used to be sort of, I've made so many mistakes, and it's not because you were ashamed of your mistakes. You love the fact that, if you've made a lot of mistakes, it means that you put yourself out there and you've taken chances. This is something that you do. But society was, and even for some of you, your family would be like, oh, you've tried this, you've tried that, you've done this, my goodness. You don't stick at anything. You have this energy that keeps moving, this vitality movement, but you're not afraid for making those mistakes. And again, if there was a little bit of that energy in and around it, it's only because people shamed you for that. And they didn't mean to shame you. They weren't nasty or anything, but they were trying to get a hold of who you were, and they couldn't really figure out who you were. So they pointed out, the quote unquote bad things, the things that they wouldn't do, and held on to those. But this is something that you've figured out. You've really owned it, because that's part of the divine feminine, trying things on, going with your intuition, figuring out how it moves, birthing and fertility. So things birth, and then things take a life of their own, and you move on to something else. Not everything works out. So coming back to this element of really working with yourself and really learning how to trust yourself, and instigating and integrating that divine feminine, because it all comes from the trust of the divine feminine and intuition. Something that is sorely lacking in society. We're coming back to it a little bit, but integrating all of those innocent, beautiful things. And even though you've had an aspect of chameleon-like in your personality, this came up in either pile 1 or pile 2. You never lost a sense of yourself, not really. There would be times when you were deep in, and you thought, who am I? And you're constantly asking that question and trying to answer it for yourself, but you never really lost track of who you are. So you're able to really get, when people feel lost, they can come to you and they can understand who they are, because you can give them that grounded sense of that, right? You just have that magic within you to be able to do that. And you have that sort of like awe-like quality when people work with you and when people are around you. They can't quite figure out who you are. And for people who are fine with themselves and are not intimidated by your energy, this is kind of an incredible thing. They look at you in awe, like, I don't quite understand. Are you mystical? Are you real? Are you human? And of course, you're everything. You're part unicorn, part guitar, part cello, part music, part fae, part elemental. You're part mermaid for some of you. Love the water, part galactic. You're all of these things, and people will be able to see all these different aspects within you. So at times you confuse people growing up, even as a child, but as you've learned to like really birth these different aspects of yourself, you really learn to integrate and accept all of these different aspects. And this again is something that you can do to help others, that beauty, where they're not fighting within, where they're learning to trust themselves, and again seeing themselves not just as working with the universe but part of the universe, constantly looking, but also not seeing, not waiting for the external to deliver, knowing that everything we create in our own existence, but showing people what that's like. But really it's shining that beautiful light in the darkness and bringing back those nuggets of wisdom in this beautiful way. And this is an incredible thing for you to be able to do. I want to actually choose just a couple more cards for you, because I feel as though there's just a little bit more message wise for you, pile tree. But this is an incredible way to be in this lifetime. It really is, to have that beautiful innocence come back and integrated. You've got the 9 of Wands reversed, and then you have the 5 of Cups. Yeah, what you want to do is you genuinely want to make life better for people on an individual way and in a collective way. You know what it's like to go through. You've been through a lot. You've been through a lot of darkness, and you've held the darkness within. You've worked with the darkness, but you also know what it's like to be underneath the blanket of darkness. So what you want to do is you want to be able to show people the wood for the trees. You want to be able to show people through, like you're a navigator, you're a guide through the darkness, you're a dark guide, and you're able to do this with a certain amount of ease because of what you've been through. Again, how you got here was not easy, far from it. That's why people are going to trust you, and that's why you're going to be really good at what you do, and instinctive in what you do, and that's why people will be able to come to you and have these glorious sort of breakthroughs, these incredible aha moments, because you hold the energy of darkness, and in that people will not be afraid of it. Let's do one more too. But yeah, you don't want people fighting against themselves anymore, or fighting each other. That physically hurts you. That essence of you when people are doing that to themselves, and again doing that on a global level. So yeah, you've got that beautiful articulation of bringing that in, the sense of cohesiveness that's coming in, and you might have been accused at some point of being naive, because you've held this energy of wanting everybody to be okay, and maybe people called you naive, that the world doesn't work like that, the world will swallow you up, this, that, and the other. But that's why you had to go in and really go into depth into this darkness, to be able to ascertain how people work, to really figure out the human mind, to really figure out the ego, to really figure out this real dark side, and again the dark underbelly of how this all works, to identify how the ego can work when it's unrestrained and it's just gone for it, in this really sort of scary way. You've allowed yourself to break that all down, to break down that psychosis, to really see what it is. Yeah, and it's a part of it's on a psychological way, absolutely. And you can take great depths, and you can understand a lot in the darkness that most people would be intimidated by. And again, you can bring this back up to the surface, as it were, and articulate these truths in a way that people integrate aspects of themselves that weren't possible before, becoming and seeing much more of their wholeness, coming more into their morality and their humanity. And this is something that you're able to do with ease now because of your training. And again, your training would have looked very different for each and every one of you. Some of it is partly formal training, but a lot of it is instrumental in how you've done things and allowed yourself to sort of fall apart and come back together again. And some of you have lost the light at some point. Some of you went into the darkness so deeply that you did lose your own light. So you know what that's like, and you know how to direct people back from losing their own light because you lost yours. But you did come back with that vitality. You were able to see your light again. And once that light was integrated in a certain way, it's never going to be lost again. And this is something that you can do for others. This is an incredible thing to do. I mean, we don't need to tell you that you opted to come down on earth at this time because the gift, the magic that you have is insanely powerful. And this is exactly the energy that we need in the world right now. This is probably something that you realize. So this is what we have for you, Pal 3. Incredibly beautiful, incredibly gracious soul. We're sending you so much love, energy, and beauty for exactly who you are and where you are in the world. If you feel like subscribing, we would love to have you. And of course, hit that bell icon. We have 2 of these beautiful readings a week. And don't forget to give us a little like. It really helps out the channel. And of course, we have tons of resources down below. If your intuition takes you in that direction, we have the beautiful website. We have a Unicorn School of Light. There is a new podcast coming out next week. We have our podcast from last week to check out. And we also have a new course coming out on writing, a new audio course coming out of writing through trauma. And it's going to be incredible. So if you feel called to, check out down below. And again, if you have not checked out the Persephone reading for the underworld, you might want to check that out too. All right, my darlings, go be you beautiful light soul. And until we meet again, take care. Bye-bye.